Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to the next student panel, which is called Gilligan's Care Ethics in the 21st Century. My name is Judith Rosenbaum, and before you see several of my students from Philosophy and Ethics and Mass Communication. The reason we came up with this panel is because we did a case study on the Kobe Bryant case, where he was accused of rape back in 2003. And we decided to turn that very lively classroom discussion into a panel for the Women's Conference. The first thing that we're going to talk about is Gilligan's Care Ethics. I mean, what are they? How do they apply to women? And I want to ask one of the students if they would, feel free to explain to the audience what Gilligan's Care Ethics were.
Hello, out there.
When you're first to speak, just say your name real quick.
Hello, my name is Amina Farley. I'm a mass communications major. And Gilligan's Care Ethics is based on female morality, which is based on the care perspective, and male morality is based on focusing on justice, rights, and rules.
All right. Does anybody want to explain the care perspective, what exactly that entailed? Any of the other women or men? They're like, dang it, Dr. Rosenbaum didn't tell us she was going to ask us these questions.
In my opinion, care perspective, where she was coming from, is basically how females differentiate from males and how we go about our morals and our ethics, and basically just our, how we think differently from males based off of caring, nurturing, and
Right.
how males just think based off of rights and justice. They would like to add on to that.
Right, so basically Gilligan developed this idea that, there were these developmental stages. How do you develop your norms and values? And Lawrence Kohlberg, who is like the leading guy on that, used a very masculine perspective. She argued that women are more likely to look at, how do I make other people happy? How do I make myself happy? How do I balance that? And men are not likely to think like that. That was the argument that Gilligan used. And I guess the first question of today is, and I'm looking to my panel, do we need male and female ethics? Do we need different ethics for different genders? And if we do, what's the difference between the two? Just, y'all, they came up with these questions themselves. So
Hello, everybody. My name is Whitney, and I don't think we need different male and female ethics because I believe that all men and women are equal. But at the same time, we can't ignore the fact that there are different male and female ethics that are already in place in today's society. It's not based upon us. It's just what is portrayed to us. So, yeah.
Hey, how you doing? I'm Darius Harris. And I would say that we do need different sets of guidelines for men and women because with men, you can be a little bit more hard-on and hands-on with a man, but with a lady, it's more so of handling her emotional points of views. So it's more emotional when it's towards a lady. So yeah, I think we would need that.
I'm going to disagree a little bit. In today's day and time, women are having to be a little bit more harder. Like in corporate world, they're not allowed to have as many emotions as we were in the past. So at this day and time, I think the ethics system should be pretty much the same.
do you guys think that there are different expectations for men and women? Do women get more passes than men, morally or ethically speaking?
Hello, my name is Marcus Worthy. And I honestly feel that women get more passes than men do, simply because of the fact that I think people build off the emotional factor when it comes down to women. And women tend to be more sensitive than men are. So in order to prevent from hurting their feelings or making them feel like less of a person, you kind of have to sugarcoat a lot of things with them, in my opinion. And with men, it's just straight on, this is the way it is, no way around it, deal with it.
Hi, I don't think I introduced myself. I'm Dejana, and I kind of would disagree, only because it depends on the environment. Kind of like corporately, I feel like males would be a little bit harder on females, depending on
When a lot of times men are more sensitive.
In my opinion, when it comes down to men, sensitivity does not matter amongst men, or whether it be a woman talking to a man. Sensitivity is not something that's thought about when it comes down to men.
To add on to what he's saying, with a man, have you ever heard you can't wear your emotions on your sleeve? With a man, he cannot wear his emotions on his sleeve because he's considered weak. And with ladies, if a lady is wearing her emotions on her sleeve, well, she's considered as sensitive and caring.
But when a woman does that, does she get a pass for doing that? Or is she judged for doing that?
Sometimes, most of the time, I would say yes, women do get a pass with that because of wearing their emotions. For instance, let's say with a ticket, when you're getting a ticket with a man.
Police, right? Like a traffic ticket?
Yeah, like
Okay.
a traffic ticket. with a traffic ticket, with a man, okay, how you doing, sir? Hey, well, here you go, your ticket. It's not going to be any talking. With a lady, oh, hey, how you doing, sir? It's going to be some type of flirtating going on. She's going to go on, she may start even crying. So then it's going to be, now this police officer is going to be playing off of that woman's emotions.
I have to attest to that because I actually experienced that with my mother. It just depends on the case. Sometimes, and most of the times, you will still get the ticket, depending on what police officer you
All
run
right.
into.
Just how many ladies here have tried, and audience included, ladies, how many of you have tried to cry your way out of a traffic ticket? Nice, thank you. How many men have tried to cry their way out of a traffic ticket? Nice one, Jarrett. Very nice. Did it work? No. In a professional setting, though, and I know some of you ladies work in a professional setting, you're SGA, some of you guys have positions in their TV radio station. Are the norms for professional behavior the same for men as they are for women?
I'm sorry, I didn't introduce myself. I'm Danielle. But what's expected out of you is still the same. It doesn't matter whether you're a man or a woman. They still want the job done. So regardless of if you're a woman, they're not going to be like, oh, well, she didn't get it done today, so I'm going to give her a break. If it didn't get done, you'll still get fired, just like a man.
All right. And men agree with that?
Yes, we men agree with that.
I saw DeMarcus, who was like, I'm not entirely sure.
I feel like, in my opinion, that I agree with, if you don't do your job, you're going to get fired. And it's the same way across the board. But the way things are dealt with when it comes down to the firing process in certain situations, there's still a difference. Like, it's not going to be, like with a man, it could be more hard as far as things that may be said or the way things may be gone about when it comes down to being fired. But with a woman, it goes back to that emotional, I guess, sense and that level of sensitivity that's there. So I agree that, yes, across the board, when it comes down to getting work done and how you should handle yourself in a workplace or in a business setting, yes, it's the same. But when it comes down to the process of dealing with punishment in work, in the work environment, I still feel like it's different.
Okay, bless you. So was Gilligan necessary? She developed her own stages of, ethical development for women. Is that necessary then, since you both seem to agree that maybe not?
I would, could you repeat your question? So I make sure
Was it
that-
necessary for Gilligan to develop a set of ethics, especially for women?
I would say so because of women have to have their sense of power too. Just like when Machiavelli had written out his guidelines, it talked about a lot of power, but it only talked about a lot of male power. So yeah, I would say that you would have to have two sets, some power for women, power for men.
Okay. And then would you argue that if women utilize the care perspective and men utilize the justice, Kohlberg perspective, that they would still need to be treated equal, but they would come to the same conclusion from different perspectives? Or is it possible for men and women to reach different conclusions about the same problems because of their different set of ethics?
Yeah, I would say so. Yes, I would. I would agree with that.
Everybody else? All right. Now, are there issues where males, and I kind of already asked this, but let's revisit that, where males and females utilize different ethical perspective, or they're the victim of different? Are there situations, and I can think of one that we talk about in class, are there situations where men and women get treated differently, have different morals applied to them?
Hello, everybody. And yes, there is. There are different situations where men are treated differently than women, and more things are socially and morally okay than if were a woman to try to do it, then it just wouldn't.
Like
what? Stereotype we all talk about, especially here on campus. When men, do what they want to do,
they're promiscuous?
Thank you. Yes. When men are promiscuous, it is okay. It's okay. They glorify it. They try, and they brag. Thank you. And when it comes on to a woman, it's very different. She's fast. She's out there. She can't keep her legs closed. Like it's really different. So. Yeah, it's certain situations. That's not the only situation, but that's the main one we talk about all the time. Like,
DeMarcus?
In my opinion, that whole idea is starting to level out as far as, like, kind of like we talked about in class about there being the big man on campus and the slut on campus. I feel like that's the playing field is level because girls are doing the same exact things that girls say that us guys do. And if you look at shows like Being Mary Jane, Scandal. If you look at shows, if you even look at shows like The Game, the character Tasha Mack, she's had multiple men in her life throughout the show, and she's currently pregnant on the show, and she has no idea who her father is. But yet, those characters are still being glorified through media. And even if you look at such people as Kim Kardashian, pretty much she's become famous based off the things that she's done behind closed doors. And pretty much she's being glorified on TV. She's been on multiple shows. She's constantly jumping from athlete to actor to rapper. It's different people, but yet and still, she's being glorified for being quote unquote, pretty much. So the idea of you saying that guys are still being glorified for that, I feel like that's invalid because girls are starting to get the same representation as if they're a guy.
Okay.
I'm going to say, though, when you're talking about these people in the media, that's exactly what it is. It's in the media a lot of times. When you're coming back down to, women in everyday life, if a woman was to do everything they see Kim Kardashian do or somebody else in the media, on campus, they would get labeled as the slut. Like, everybody will be talking about them. They'll be on burn pages, on all of that other stuff. You don't get the same thing done to a guy.
But, even still, media, in my opinion, is used to influence people to feel a certain way about something or to view something in a certain light. If women are constantly watching something and they see that Kim, like, for example, Kim Kardashian is getting all this light, she's getting all this money, she's getting all this fame and stardom. And they're like, dang, so if I feel like, or if I strive to be just like her, maybe I could be in the same boat as her. So, media influences people regardless of what y'all say.
And just to... Oh, well, go ahead, Dejana. I'm so sorry.
See? Females.
I insisted that you go on.
Okay, let me go.
Go.
Okay. One thing I wanted to say, I agree with Kim Kardashian and being glorified based off of her sex tape, and that's kind of how she got her career path started. But you got to think, she's being glorified for that because it's uncommon for women to be, like a sex fiend like males are and to brag about it and to be known for it. So I feel like that's where it came from for her to be glorified about it because it's never been that way before until this type of generation. And then going back to what you said about Being Mary Jane and Scandal, it's kind of like, you got to think about the mindset of today's society. You take women in these different TV shows and they're dating only 2 men. And so since it's more than one and it's only like 2, we go and say, oh, she's being a slut because she's having problems deciding, or in Scandal, having problems deciding on who they want to date. Think about it like that.
Hello, everyone. My name is Charles. I somewhat agree with my brethren right here because while they're limited to the media side of it, I think they forgot the most important one that most women in our generation slightly idolize, and that is Marilyn Monroe. She was known to sleep around with a lot of men in her day, and yet girls on social media, they're flinging out all her quotes. They want her hairstyle. They want that little lip thing she had with the mole or bump, whatever it was. And
basically, with males and with females in general, what we're really trying to say is we base our lives off of what we see on TV. And that's when we know that society itself is hyper real, meaning that it's not tangible and we think we know, but we really don't know. So we're trying to base our lives off of what we see, and yet we know that that's not how life itself is. So, and it goes back into the cave allegory. We only know by what we see, and we only learn from what we see unless we're really out checking for ourselves.
Fair enough. Amina?
I wanted to go back with the Marilyn Monroe thing, and there are a lot of young women that do specifically glorify Marilyn Monroe, but at the same time, that's also become a growing trend of who we like or what we wear, just like Kim Kardashian. She got that, but she's also using that to build her brand. So I would say that as young females that we do need to be, more responsible for getting to know other young women and people that back in the day that had a great positive image on not necessarily African American women, but other women in general, and what we can be, and just be women as ourselves to be role models.
Fair enough. Yes, DeMarcus.
Kind of building off what Amina just said. She just said that everything that's going on now with Marilyn Monroe is a trend. But even when it comes down to powerful women that were from the past, like even if you look at it from the aspect of Black history and powerful people like Madam C.J. Walker and stuff like that, those particular people are somewhat the same way as people like Marilyn Monroe. They're only going to be glorified for a time period. It's going to be a trend just like her. Like even if you look at how, when we were growing up, how we used to celebrate Black History Month compared to now, it's a complete difference now. So when it comes down to Marilyn Monroe, well, not Marilyn Monroe, Kim Kardashian, yeah, she may be building her brand and stuff like that, but like you said, she's going to be a trend, she's going to die off, but there's still always going to be somebody else who's going to rise in her place that's going to keep doing the same exact thing. So in all seriousness, in this day and time, I feel like it's a never-ending cycle. So I feel like these things are still going to be glorified in some shape, form, or fashion of media, and people are still going to be influenced by it.
So you guys kind of touched on this when you talked about it. Does the perception that society has of a group of people, whether it's men, women, African Americans, white people, Latin Americans, does that perception play a role in defining what is ethical for that group? Who wants to kick it off?
I feel like it does, because I guess it's kind of like when you constantly hear somebody say something, you start to believe it or you start to apply it to your life. Like I was talking to my friend the other day, and based off of how TV presents the young Black man, if I were to go outside, like I was at her apartment, I was like, if I were to leave your apartment, go outside, my pants sagging, hoodie on, go to my car, turn on some rap music, blast it as loud as I can, there's gonna automatically be a perception that's put there. And I feel with some people, they feel as if people feel a certain way towards them, they might as well go ahead and embody that particular thing that people have, well, that particular mode that people have set them in. And I mean, that's the same, I feel like that's the same for any race. All races are responsible for doing that to all races, and even when it comes down to being inside of the same race, Black people do it to Black people, women do it to men. It's just, we do it to each other across the board.
Anyone else?
We actually agree.
Wow. Wow, let it be duly noted. In class, we talked about the Kobe Bryant rape trial. Now, I'm sure that since not everybody here is in that class, anybody want to give a summary of what happened so that they know what we're going to talk about?
Our case study in class pretty much talked about whether the media was ethical or not ethical for releasing the name of the young woman. When she first filed for rape, pretty much filed a case under rape, her name was not released to the public. But after she dropped her rape charges and just decided to file a civil suit, her name was released to the public. Now, what we discussed in class was to figure out whether the media was actually ethical for releasing her name out there, so now that people had access to find out anything they wanted to about her.
So let's start off by talking about, and we talked about this a little bit, is rape a special crime in that we should not release the name of the victim?
That's it could be yes or no, depending on the case and depending on the high level of the case. I would say yes, because you would want to know what's going on and who else is involved in the case. You don't want to have one party being bashed for something that may not be true or may be true, and you don't want the other person not even being noticed for what's going on when all the heat is coming on you and people are only looking at you. So I feel like, yeah, the name should be released just for the same reason as the other person's name is released, because he has committed into a crime. So who did he commit that crime to?
When it comes down to that, I feel like pretty much you should ask for the permission of the victim, because the victim is already traumatized by, being raped. So ask for the person's permission before you release it to the public. Now, if it was a case like Kobe Bryant's case, where she called rape and then she dropped rape, then yeah, her name should have been released at that point in time because it was no longer a rape case. But under that circumstances, you should ask the permission of the victim, because your first thing should always be to protect the victim in a rape case.
Okay, I'm just going to pose a question to the women. You said ask permission for the victim. So what about the accused? Is he not a victim as well?
No.
Please answer that question, ladies.
real quick before y'all answer, because there are cases where rape has been called and the man has, and it's been consensual, or the man has been completely innocent. And
Right.
his name has been put out there and he's been bashed. And even with a situation back in Atlanta, I forgot the guy's name, Jonardo Wilson, he was charged with rape, sent to jail, got out of jail, had to sit down with this woman, with a private investigator, and she openly admitted in front of the camera that she lied just to get him put in jail because he didn't want to be with her. And that ruined his whole entire life.
So ladies, should the same consideration we give to a woman, the victim of rape, be given to the perpetrator, right?
Yeah, I would actually have to agree with DeMarcus. I think that for this situation, it would have to involve both sides to be given the permission to release their names, just for, to protect the both of them, because I know a lot of cases where the man actually was innocent. So, I agree. They should give the permission, both of them.
We all agree on that? Do we have any audience feedback on that question? Yes, Dr. Inkerson. I could see her wiggling in her seat. I'm like, she's got to speak up.
First of all, I got to backtrack about the question of you mentioning Kardashian, you were mentioning someone like Marilyn Monroe. You can name every person Kardashian was with. You can name every person Marilyn Monroe was with. Will Chamberlain, on the other hand, said that he was with 20,000 women. Do you think he can name all those women? No. That's the difference, right? So notice that because it's more than one man, even though she could name and was married to two of them, she's a slut. And even her tape was in a committed relationship. So let's look at the nuances of it, not just, even Marilyn Monroe, one was a president, one was a president's brother, one was a playwright. You have to think about the imbalance between, what is expected of women, but men can have nameless, faceless women that they're with, more than one, then she's a slut. Now, as far as rape cases, very, very few rape cases are so-called cold rape. In other words, you're way more likely to have unreported actual rapes than you are to have rapes that were falsely reported. As a matter of fact, the reason why you probably name those cases is because they're what? Rare. And again, I don't like the idea of calling rape, as if it's some type of game. It's very, very rare. There are more women who are raped and never reported for that very reason, because they're going to be told you're calling rape. What about the male victims? Well, what about the male and female victims of rape who never reported because they don't want to be accused of trying to ruin someone's reputation?
Very good point. There's a lady in the back with a green shirt.
In the aspect of should the accused be protected, well, you have to remember, especially with somebody like a celebrity, you also need to protect all the other possible victims of this possible rape. So I think it's important for people to know who to look out for in the event. But in a celebrity case, because it is a possibility that somebody is calling rape in order to get a settlement, I think it's important for it to be publicized where the case is going. So in that event, if you're going to call rape on a celebrity, you have to understand that there are going to be cameras and you're going to be going around with the suspect. So the person making the accusation, their name's going to get out there eventually because it is a high-profile case. So I would hope that the accuser is thinking about whether or not she wants her name out there if she's going to persecute a celebrity in that particular case. But when it comes to protecting the possible accused, then I think we need to protect the possible victims in the future if that person is indeed raping somebody.
So you're saying there should be different standards for famous perpetrators versus non-famous perpetrators?
I think it's just what's going to happen if you're already out there in the media and somebody's accusing you of rape. There's no way to get around that. That's going to get out. It's going to get leaked, or it's going to end up affecting, because it is public record at some point once it gets to the books. And I mean, let's face it, if you're a celebrity, it's going to be put out there. Somebody's going to find that information and they're going to put it out there. I'm not saying that they don't deserve the privacy, especially if they're not a rapist, but at the same time, they have to expect as a celebrity, media is looking for this information on me. If they find it, it's public record.
I wanted to,
Well, whoever wants to go first.
I also wanted to piggyback on what the other people are saying. When someone is sexually assaulted, their sexual history is usually brought up. Well, previously. Like in the case of Marilyn Monroe, for example. How many of you know that she was molested as a child?
Yeah, I knew that.
Sometimes we instead of calling someone a hoe or a slut, we have to think about, yes, that person is promiscuous, but why is that person promiscuous? Is it because of the background? Is it how they were raised? Is it what happened to them? Or are they promiscuous because they see the person as a sexual object just to be exploited?
If I could say something, with Marilyn Monroe, it's actually more to it, and I go to you next, Crystal. But with Marilyn Monroe, did you know that she also had something to do with the Kennedy murder?
No.
And
No conspiracy theories here, Darius. No.
and
No.
it was
Before Kennedy was dead.
no within this.
Yes, she was.
Within this, no, within this book I recently read, it talked about how Marilyn Monroe, Kennedy, and this other guy who was wanted at the time, they were trying to meet up to discuss what we could do about the gangs and the uproar within at that time. So Marilyn was introduced to both Kennedy by the mobster in which she was with. I will get that name and I'll have it for you. And she was actually going back and forth through both parties, and she was actually messing around with both men at the same time, and it's actually documented, and I will show you that.
Right. Dr. Hankers.
No, I'm just saying, again, what I'm challenging is I'm challenging that double standard. And I
Right.
just want us to be aware of that double standard. Again, you can look up the name of the man she was with. Now,
Do you know who Kennedy was all messing around? Because you mentioned she was messing around with both, but Kennedy messed around with pretty much everything female that passed his way.
so I'm just saying, while someone is famous, in other words, it would have been career suicide for Marilyn Monroe to say, and I slept with this person, and this was great. But Will Chamberlain, who, one of the greatest basketball players ever, he can say, in an interview after interview, yeah, about 20,000. I would have about this many or this, and can't name anybody. Maybe he can name about state, I don't know. But, you couldn't even, we don't have enough seats for as many women that he claimed he was with. And yet, nobody's sitting around saying, we should not revere Will Chamberlain anymore because he was a hoe. No. But we are saying the same thing about certain female things. So I just think that we should.
No, men don't.
Hold on.
I just think that, especially as young people, that you should challenge those double standards. Either you need to bring it up to the height of what is expected of women, that young women should look at a young man and say, I don't want to be with you, you'll be with half the campus. That's not safe. Or it should be that anyone should be able to have sexual autonomy to decide who he or she would like to have physical pleasure with. You have to move towards some type of middle ground, I think.
And going back to earlier, present times, it's the same way. Like, we don't sit, I know as most guys, we do sit back and be like, okay, yeah, that girl has been with a good portion of campus. But girls sit back and do the same exact thing. If that wasn't the case, they wouldn't sit back and put a good portion of men that they come in contact with in the category of being a dog.
But when it comes to the genders mixing, and I realize I'm on the other side of the classroom, I've yet to hear a girl walk into class and went, ooh, I tapped that last night.
But see, hold on. Now I will say that girls have more so of an awareness of how they're perceived than us guys are.
Because it doesn't matter for you. For girls, it matters.
Exactly. That's the.
How many girls here have worn a promise ring or are wearing it, and how many guys ever wore a promise ring?
But then that goes back. But then that goes back to the whole thing of men ethics and women ethics. There are more things that y'all care about that we.
Right, and that you get away with, that there's that double standard.
But that's something that's applied for us across the board in most situations. That's not just one specific thing that we just don't care about. That's like, for example, if a girl's getting ready to go out, it's going to take her a whole lot longer to get herself prepared than it is for a guy. Simply because of the fact that we. Hold on. Let's be serious.
I don't have
Let's
to.
be
We could
serious.
fill up the rest of the night this way.
Let's be serious. When it comes down to it, even if y'all are going to the club, it's going to take y'all a whole lot longer. Don't look at me like that. Because I'm not, you know what? It's for
Exactly.
But that's what I'm saying. It's the fact that it takes.
But who are they preening for, DeMarcus?
Honest, no, it's not. No, hold on, no. Girls are not planning for guys. They're planning for other females to make sure they don't talk junk about them while they're at the club. Let's be serious.
Okay,
Let's be serious.
DeMarcus, you're going to have to let the girls talk right now.
Okay, first of all, sometimes certain guys do take longer than other females. Pretty boys take longer than other females. Do not talk over me. And
I'm gonna let you finish.
And second of all, you're saying that, girls are doing it for other females, but okay, I'm going to ask my ladies up here. When you guys go out, you're trying to catch the attention of a guy a lot of times, right? Like, yes, a crush that you like, so you're going to make sure that you're looking fabulous. But I'm going to say, once you're with that guy, it may not matter anymore. But when you're trying to get his attention, yes, you will sit here and start dressing up, making sure your hair looks good. Yes, makeup, everything you're going to do. when you're
And
trying
just
to
from
get
a
that guy's
professional
attention.
perspective, I've gotten this from you. Again, the professor perspective, I wear my hair up 90% of the time. And when I wear it down, it comes to about, somewhere around here. And everybody goes, oh, Dr. Rosenbaum, you need to wear your hair long and down. It's so pretty. Nobody goes, hey, Dr. Rosenbaum, way to go on that publication. But if Dr. Moises, one of my colleagues, shows up with a new haircut, nobody goes, Dr. Moises, love the hair. Because he would chew you up and spit you out. I mean, I do too, but you still do it. So there is that double standard, I think, that for women, looks matter. I mean, look at how the guys and male professors dress, and look at how all of us females are dressed. So, I don't know.
And another thing about the dressing thing, yes, okay, we might do it for guys, but also it was how some of us were raised. Okay, our mothers taught us you don't ever go out looking half. You out. Let me finish. Because you don't go out ever looking, because you don't know what can happen, who you can meet. You could meet someone willing to give you a job, and if you out here and looking just half, like hair not done, nothing, like case in point, I know for me, I had learned this the hard way. My sophomore year when we were voting, it was early in the morning and I didn't care. And this one time I just didn't care, and I usually don't walk out like that, but this one time I just walked out fully dressed early, trying to get to vote in my bonnet, and I got Instagram, and it was bad. It was real bad. So I'm just saying. I mean, from then on out, that one time I slipped, it never happened again. But what I'm saying is that you females go out for men. Yeah, that's true, but it's some of us women. It's just like our looks matter to us, because if we're half stepping, if we don't look right, then it's a problem. It's a big problem. Y'all come to class, sweats, slides, fresh out. Y'all come straight from practice to class, melanin.
I would have to say something about that because.
Y'all keep it nice. Actually, I'm going to cut in and we're going to move to the next question, which ties into what y'all were saying. DeMarcus, you will get your say, which has to do with public perception. And we talked about this. I mean, we can tie it to the Kobe Bryant trial or what we were talking about just now. And the question you guys came up with yourselves just yesterday was, during the Kobe Bryant trial, what role did the media play in public perception of the young woman? And I think this can be applied to Kim Kardashian, Marilyn Monroe, or going out voting. What role does public perception play? What role does the media play in creating that? What role does public perception play in women and men's behavior?
Well, I'm not sure if I'm going to answer this question right, but the first thought when I see what role does the media play in public perception, I feel like the media kind of influences others in the way that they think, and then so however whatever image you put out there on anyone, some people may follow behind that media and support, how they feel the media feels, and I'm just saying the media influences others, basically.
In certain cases, like the Kobe Bryant case, I feel like it goes back to what we originally talked about earlier when we first started. Women are looked at from an emotional and sensitive perspective when things happen to them, versus if it's a man, it's kind of like, who cares, let's throw the book at him, and depending on the circumstances.
And it also depends on the man's image.
It's my turn.
Okay.
Yeah.
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Thank you. Well, when it comes down to that, DeMarcus, if you're talking about it's about the emotions and everything of women, then how come in the Kobe Bryant case, after she did drop the rape case, they started putting all of her dirty laundry out there? If it's about emotions, then shouldn't you want to preserve the women's emotions if you're saying that's what it's about?
So why would she even drop the case if she know that she was really hurt? If she knew that she was really emotionally scarred, traumatized, why would she even drop the case?
Oh.
Now when you drop a case and you saying you going from you want to have someone locked up for rape, and now you saying, well, I don't want to have them locked up. Let's see what I can get up out of them. Now you come to a point where did it really happen, or is it you trying to find a way to seek something out of that person?
I'm gonna say when it came down to that whole situation, period, or whatever, her name, even though the mainstream media did not release her name was already put out there online. People dug up dirt before it even hit mainstream media. So if you are a part of a high profile case wouldn't you rather just go on and back down a little bit, go on and see what you can get out of the case instead of trying to still stay out there in the public's eye?
All right, hang on. The lady with the green had her hand up before that. Go ahead.
Okay, so this is really towards the guys, because especially me and you worked and talked about this case before today. You told me about all the information that came out about the woman's past life, a few years past life. She was promiscuous, she did this, she's known for this, she's known for that. Essentially slut shaming her. Did you get that on Kobe Bryant? Because we do know that he has a past. Now, how much of his sexual history came out to the public during that trial?
Okay.
That's media perception right there. The woman is a slut, the man is all good.
Well, Kobe's, if you actually had a chance to see the interview, Kobe actually had told his wife about numerous of other incidents in which he had been in. Exactly. But he didn't let the media do it.
Hang on, let Darius finish.
But what he did was he didn't let the media go into shaming him and saying what really went on with his past. But what he did was he went on and told it himself, because if you let the media get a hold to it, then the media is going to take that story, turn it to a way in which they want it to go. Because as we all know, the media is only a way of getting communication.
But that was Kobe telling his wife that.
Hold on.
The media shamed her for being promiscuous and said that she was pursuing this case, trying to get money out of it. That's the difference between media perception. A male celebrity is more important than the female victim.
What I think everybody needs to realize, and I'm not sure, because I don't think that is included in media perception, is that when you accuse somebody of rape, you have a rape kit done, which is like a very extensive gynecological exam. You have to testify. You're going to get testified in court. You're going to be cross-examined. So the pressure, imagine if you have been raped and now you are being questioned about whether the most traumatizing experience in your life is actually true. Not only that, the media's digging up information. Well, she slept with, 70 men, and so she probably wanted it. She's a gold digger. So the media don't necessarily clarify that when they then add additional pressure on the woman. So the fact that she dropped the trial might have nothing to do with the fact that there was no rape, and it might have more to do with her ability to withstand the pressure, because this concept of calling rape, like Dr. Hankerson said, doesn't occur. Women don't make stuff like that up a whole lot. It happens, yes, just like people get put away for murder, unjustly. But I think that's important to keep in mind too. The media paint this perception that women are these, gold digging, but they've been through a lot after, they filed charges, just FYI.
Okay. One quick thing. You were talking about how, like, when, I guess, famous people do stuff outside of their marriage, Tiger Woods was blasted when he did everything with outside of his marriage. So the idea, kind of like with, that's because he had to build it back up after he lost it. Exactly. And kind of going back off what Dejana said, nobody heard her. She said with the Kobe Bryant thing, even though, yes, he did tell his wife, but he simply told her because it was going to come out anyways through other media outlets. So why not going to tell you now, deal with this now, instead of waiting weeks later, me style trying to hide information where you're going to find it out through media. So that's how.
Let's reverse the case. If the roles had been reversed, if a male had accused a female athlete, I'm not thinking of any single one right now, I'm drawing a blank, but let's say, all right, Serena Williams, let's say that someone accuses Serena Williams of raping him. Would the media have treated that case differently? Anyone?
Honestly, I feel like they wouldn't have. Simply because of the fact that the way men are perceived and the way people look at men, we're supposed to be these powerful, well, we're looked at as being more powerful than women, one. We're the head of household, so there's a level of power that's already established with us. So the idea of going into a courtroom saying that, oh, this woman raped me, I feel like, in my opinion, I feel like that man is going to be laughed at because people are going to look at it, oh, how did this woman overpower you? Yes, there are certain situations where drugs may be involved, but if it's just like this Kobe Bryant case, based off of information, there was no drugs involved, he's going to be the laughing stock of that courtroom. in my opinion, based off of how society view things, there's no way a woman can rape a man the same regards as the Kobe Bryant case.
And just like we said in class the other day when we were talking and having this discussion, we said that yes, men, we did all agree that men have been raped before, but it's not as talked about and put in the media as is with a woman's case because of.
Well, there is a reason for that. Just like many women, most men do not report that they are raped, you know, especially if it's by another man or by women. That is something that could be considered very shameful. And going into a police station talking about how 2 women jumped you and raped you, there are police officers that will probably laugh you out of the station. So there is still a stigma attached to sexual assault, whether or not the male or the female is a victim.
I definitely agree with that because, I mean, with a man, the smallest thing can make us feel emasculated. So something that major, if it was me, I wouldn't tell a soul, honestly.
Aw.
So, I mean, but that's simply because that's simply because of how I was raised. Like, a man, you're supposed to be, I guess, a driving force when it comes down to things. You're supposed to be, I guess, not powerful, but be firm. And pretty much, you know, I was taught not to really show emotions, not to be sensitive about things, just kind of suck things up and go on with life. So if a man has the same kind of mindset that I was brought up on, nothing's going to be said. It's simply because of the fact that it happened. Suck it up, move on with life.
I think one thing that we've overlooked is that the people, like certain people have thrown out the word traumatized. If the lady in the Kobe Bryant case was truly traumatized from this experience, why did it just come up like in an instant? Like, if you're usually traumatized about something, like, you will hold it in. And I'm not saying that she was wrong for what she did. And like Dr. Rosenbaum said, she couldn't handle the pressure that the court that brought about with the court case and stuff like that. But I'm not saying you have to bottle it up because it's not healthy, you know what I'm saying? But if she truly was raped and traumatized by this experience, why not pursue your case and defend yourself if you truly experienced this traumatic experience?
It goes back to the fact that it was all in the public. As it was already said, when you're a rape victim, you're already, feeling some kind of way about it. Like, you're not, a lot of times these people do not have the most confidence in the world or anything after they've been raped. So with it being a publicly, a public case and everything, why wouldn't you go on and just drop the case to avoid being in the public eye? People were threatening this woman's life.
And also, and I just want to know, because that would go back to what I said earlier about men not wearing their emotions on their sleeves and women wearing their emotions on their sleeves.
So what
But
about
that's
the
an
men
emotional-
who don't report
That's
being
big- that's-
raped?
that's
Is that
him-
being emotional too then? Because
No.
they're ashamed?
That's keeping. What?
Rape is an emotional case,
Okay,
period.
okay.
Rape is something that is
Let's
emotional.
not get emotional.
But exactly.
Let each other finish.
Okay, go ahead.
The question that's implicit here is whether that's bad. And it sounds like on the male side of the table, there's a judgment being passed that wearing your emotions on your sleeve is bad. And the females are going, no, it's not.
See, now that's. But how is a man viewed in the world?
Hey, we have a question from the audience. I think we should take it.
I think it goes back to what you said as far as, once you go through rape, you go through tests, you do all this, once you get on trial, you go get cross-examination, you basically reliving what has happened. So instead of you going on trial, reliving it through one lawyer and having to relive it through another lawyer, you just drop it, be like, you know what, I relived it one time, I'm just gonna let it go. Because you don't know if you're gonna win, you don't know if you're gonna lose. So if you lose, it's like
Yes, Dr. Hankerson? Shh, guys, Dr. Hank.
No, I'm saying you continue on with that first case, and if he's found guilty, then hey, one, behind bars, more of a change. But if he's found not guilty, just like with the O.J. Simpson trial, when he was found not guilty, they still took him into court, or able to get one.
But the point she's making is that the whole experience is emotional, and there's no way around that. Dr. Hankerson had a question.
Are you all equating emotional, and it seems like it has a negative
Right.
connotation as opposed to being a mechanism of coping that can be seen as more healthy. And I think about that when I think of, let's say a woman gets a divorce. You know, maybe her and her girlfriends go out, have a drink. Maybe she eats a whole bunch of ice cream, doesn't cry, listening to music, whatever she does. But how many cases do you hear a man gets a divorce, comes, picks up the children, kills them, kills her, kills himself? Now, hear the whole scenario, they'll say, oh, he, he wasn't emotional, but apparently there was emotion there. She has an outlet to show and cope with that emotion. Apparently he feels he has to be strong, so he can't show it. And I mean, that happens at least a dozen times a year, where during a situation where there's a dissolution of a family, it's as if he decides, well, everybody has to die because I'm sad. And I don't have a way of showing it without showing it through control and violence.
I mean, yeah, but I mean, in the same instance, there are cases with women that do the same exact thing throughout the year as well. I understand.
I'm just saying that just because something exists doesn't mean that it's in the same proportion as something else and thus makes them equal. That's not true. There's more killing of a woman has a better chance of getting killed by someone who loves her than she is of getting killed by someone in the street. And that's just statistics.
And going back to the emotional thing, like I said, with most men, emotions are taught to be held in at a very young age. And I don't know if that's the same way for y'all, but I know it's not healthy, but there have been plenty of times growing up, if I did something bad and I'm being emotional about it because I know I'm about to get a spanking from it, I'm crying because I'm trying to be emotional because I'm trying to make sure that my father and my mother are trying to be sympathetic at the fact of me crying, but they don't care. So I have the same regards as the Kobe Bryant case.
And just like we said in class the other day when we were talking and having this discussion, we said that yes, men, we did all agree that men have been raped before, but it's not as talked about and put in the media as is with a woman's case because of.
Well, there is a reason for that. Just like many women, most men do not report that they are raped. You know, especially if it's by another man or by women. That is something that could be considered very shameful. And going into a police station talking about how two women jumped you and raped you, there are police officers that will probably laugh you out of the station. So there is still a stigma attached to sexual assault, whether or not the male or the female is a victim.
I definitely agree with that because, I mean, with a man, the smallest thing can make us feel emasculated. So something that major, if it was me, I wouldn't tell a soul, honestly.
Aw.
So, I mean, but that's simply because that's simply because of how I was raised. Like a man, you're supposed to be, I guess, a driving force when it comes down to things. You're supposed to be, I guess, not powerful, but be firm. And pretty much, I was taught not to really show emotions, not to be sensitive about things, just kind of suck things up and go on with life. So if a man has the same kind of mindset that I was brought up on, nothing's going to be said. It's simply because of the fact that it happened. Suck it up, move on with life.
I think one thing that we've overlooked is that the people, like certain people have thrown out the word traumatized. If the lady in the Kobe Bryant case was truly traumatized from this experience, why did it just come up like in an instant? Like, if you're usually traumatized about something, like you will hold it in, and I'm not saying that she was wrong for what she did. And like Dr. Rosenbaum said, maybe she couldn't handle the pressure that the court that brought about with the court case and stuff like that. But I'm not saying you have to bottle it up because it's not healthy, you know what I'm saying? But if she truly was raped and traumatized by this experience, why not pursue your case and defend yourself if you truly experienced this traumatic experience?
It goes back to the fact that it was all in the public. As it was already said, when you're a rape victim, you're already, feeling some kind of way about it. Like you're not, a lot of times these people do not have the most confidence in the world or anything after they've been raped. So with it being a publicly, a public case and everything, why wouldn't you go on and just drop the case to avoid being in the public eye? People were threatening this woman's life.
And also, and I just want to know, because that would go back to what I said earlier about men not wearing their emotions on their sleeves and women wearing their emotions on their sleeves.
So what
But
about
that's
the
an
men
emotional-
who don't report
That's
being
big- that's-
raped?
that's
Is that
him-
being emotional too then? Because
No.
they're ashamed?
That's keeping what?
Rape is an emotional case,
Okay,
period.
okay.
Rape is something that is
Let's
emotional.
not get emotional.
Exactly.
Let each other finish.
Okay, go ahead.
The question that's implicit here is whether that's bad. And it sounds like on the male side of the table, there's a judgment being passed that wearing your emotions on your sleeve is bad. And the females are going, no, it's not.
See, now that's. But how is a man viewed in the world?
Hey, we have a question from the audience. I think we should take it.
I think it goes back to what you said as far as, once you go through rape, you go through tests, you do all this, once you get on trial, you go through cross-examination, you basically reliving what has happened. So instead of you going on trial, reliving it through one lawyer and having to relive it through another lawyer, you just drop it, be like, you know what, I relived it one time, I'm just gonna let it go. Because you don't know if you're gonna win, you don't know if you're gonna lose, so if you lose, it's like, dog, I just used that for nothing.
Yes, Dr. Hankerson? Shh, guys, Dr. Hankerson.
Just like you said, you go ahead and drop it, try to get out of it, get good out of it, which is the money.
No, I'm saying you continue on with that first case, and if he's found guilty, then hey, you won, behind bars, more of a shame. But if he's found not guilty, just like with the O.J. Simpson trial, when he was found not guilty, they still took him into the court, okay, to get one.
But the point she's making is that the whole experience is emotional, and there's no way around that. Dr. Hankerson had a question.
Are you all equating emotional, and it seems like it has a negative
Right.
connotation as opposed to being a mechanism of coping that can be seen as more healthy. And I think about that when I think of, let's say a woman gets a divorce. Maybe her and her girlfriends go out, have a drink. Maybe she eats a whole bunch of ice cream, just cry, listen to movies, whatever she does. But how many cases do you hear a man gets a divorce, comes, picks up the children, kills them, kills her, kills himself? Now, hear the whole scenario, they'll say, oh, he wasn't emotional, but apparently there was emotion there. She has an outlet to show and cope with that emotion. Apparently he feels he has to be strong, so he can't show it. And I mean, that happens at least a dozen times a year, where during a situation where there's a dissolution of a family, it's as if he decides, well, everybody has to die because I'm sad. And I don't have a way of showing it without showing it through control and violence.
I mean, yeah, but I mean, in the same instance, there are cases with women that do the same exact thing throughout the area as well. I understand
I'm just saying that just because something exists doesn't mean that it's in the same proportion as something else and thus makes them equal. That's not true. There's more killing of, a woman has a better chance of getting killed by someone who loves killed by someone in the street. And that's just statistics.
And going back to the emotional thing, like I said, with most men, emotions are taught to be held in at a very young age. And I feel, I don't know if that's the same way for y'all, but I know it's not healthy, but there have been plenty of times growing up, if I did something bad and I'm being emotional about it because I know I'm about to get a spanking from it, I'm crying because I'm trying to be emotional because I'm trying to make sure that my father and my mother are trying to be sympathetic at the fact of me crying, but they don't care. So I have to hold that emotion in, hey boy, stop crying, be a man about it, and take it.
Exactly.
So I mean, and even when it comes down to the whole idea of wearing your emotions on your sleeve, there have been plenty of situations with women. They would tell men, oh, stop being sensitive. And there have been situations with friends that I've had, they have broken up with guys, divorced guys, simply because of the fact that they're too sensitive.
Yeah,
So,
which I'm saying is bad, because what ends up is if men don't have an outlet for their emotions that are seen legitimately in society, then they're going to go to the things
Right.
that they can legitimately show, which is what? Either being closed off or explosive violence.
And with that piece of advice, it's Dr. Mallory's turn. We're going to have to, I love this conversation, but we have one more panel left. So I want to thank you all. Practice showing your emotions in a constructive way. Thank you, audience, for participating too, and thank you very much to my students.
I didn't expect y'all to agree with us that much.